Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome back once again to the We Are Marshall podcast. My name is Stephen Marshall, and this is my co-host, Bill McIntyre. As we always let you know, we're just two guys discussing the issues of the day, laying out the facts of those issues, giving you our viewpoint and our opinion of those issues. We'd love it if you would go to all of our social media, such as YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Locals, X, and Truth Social. That way you can see all of our episodes. You can share them all across your social media to let people know what we're saying and get joined in on us just like you are. And also, you can go to Rumble, which is an application that's free to download. Just the same thing as, say, YouTube. And we populate our channel there. If you go there, you can follow and subscribe, and it'll get you notified of all of the wonderful things that Bill and I are doing here at the We Are Marshall podcast. Bill is now publishing on Velo, which is on Amazon Kindle Publishing, and it's basically episodes, short stories, or blogging that he's doing at this time. You can go check him out. We will be sharing the link on our webpage, which has all of our stuff, which is at wearemarshallpodcast.com. You can buy my first novel there, which is The Unforeseen Enemy. It's on for sale right now on Amazon, an ebook and paperback form. And this Friday, I am about to release my second novel. It's called The Perception Therapist, so be looking for that. Check that out on our website and anything else going on for us. And also check out our sponsors. They're good to us in enabling us to do this podcast and bring it to you, so we'd like you to support them. We got Local Prints, New Hampshire. They are a full-service screen printing business. They're in Hampstead. Check them out. There is a link on our webpage at wearemarshallpodcast.com where you can go and get an estimate on some work that you're doing. And also, go check out our large sponsor, MateConnector.com. It's a large dating website with all the bells and whistles of the big players in the dating market, just for a much, much more inexpensive price. So check out our sponsors, support them, go check out our social media and share that around, and do subscribe and follow our channel on Rumble. Now, there's lots of news going on, and we picked our stories for today, so we're going to jump right into it. I usually start off with my initial issue, and the first one I got today, my friends, to surprise you, is authorities charge a prominent Democrat in an elaborate mail-in ballot scheme. Now, wait a minute. Let me repeat that. An elaborate mail-in
surprise?
That's
the word I'm being hung up on. Surprise?
Weren't we told that these elections were the most safe and secure of all time?
Yeah.
There's
there is no election fraud. No.
Zero. But we keep seeing stories pop up that there is election fraud. But this story here, prominent Atlantic City Democratic operative Craig Calloway has been charged with orchestrating a mail-in ballot scheme to sway elections. Hear that again. To sway elections. The U.S. Attorney's Office in New Jersey has accused him of fraudulently procuring and casting ballots, undermining the electoral process. Calloway and his associates allegedly paid individuals to serve as authorized messengers for voters intending to vote by mail, but then collected and submitted the ballots themselves. Shocking. Holding free and fair elections is a bedrock principle of our democracy. As alleged in the complaint, the defendant attempted to deprive New Jersey residents of a fair election by fraudulently procuring and casting ballots. Today's charges reflect our office's commitment to hold to account those who try to undermine the electoral process, U.S. Attorney Philip R. Selinger said. Many of the ballots were cast under the names of individuals who did not participate in the election. Voter fraud at any level chips away at the faith people have in our system, FBI Newark Special Agent in Charge James E. Denny said. We're unable, as American citizens, to hold our government accountable if our votes are compromised. The FBI and our law enforcement partners understand the gravity of protecting the process and will bring those criminals who break the law to justice. Under New Jersey law, a messenger is required to deliver any mail-in ballot they receive directly to the voter who requested the ballots and certify that they would do so. However, after receiving mail-in ballots, these purported messengers left the county clerk's office and instead handed the ballots to Calloway or his subordinates, the press release said. Callaway faces a potential penalty of 5 years in prison and a fine of up to $250,000. This isn't Callaway's first encounter with the law, as he was previously sentenced for bribery and was involved in a sex sting against a political rival. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, Bill. You know, as much as I'm not a huge Donald Trump fan as the person, and his continued railing about election fraud and them shooting him down and pushing him down, telling him to shut up, there is no election fraud. Well, I do research and you do research, and we found a number of stories about this. And here you see one. This is in New Jersey, and isn't this Chris Christie's area?
It would be, yeah. The morally unimpeachable Chris Christie.
Yes, exactly.
Okay? Yes. So the only man who can beat Trump, remember?
In his area, here we go, some rampant fraud. And I've got another story. Always, you know, I have a theme, so I got another story after that. But let's see what Bill has to say in regards to this New Jersey mail-in ballot fraud. What do you have to say,
Steve, I know you remember this, but I really, not knowing the demographic of where our watchers are coming from, lists are coming from, maybe this be a new story for you. It wasn't a national headline, but Bridgeport, Connecticut, a few months ago, there was a surveillance video that saw a woman who was carrying armloads of ballots and stuffing them in boxes. There was video surveillance of her doing it on 3 different locations. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of ballots. A judge had to overturn the results of the election based upon it. So it's local, okay? But so is this story. You know, this story is not about a national election, but this is something that if you can do it locally and you are the person in charge of the balloting and the election process, which is it's a pretty high honor to be in charge of an election if you have an idealistic nature to you, like I do. You know, I believe that elections have sanctity because it's a right that people all over the world are dying for. And Americans continue to either abuse it or fail to take advantage of it. This stuff is very common, and we need these stories to come out because we are told that, you know, it depends on what room we might mention this stuff, Steve. We mentioned the word election fraud, and we're going to be called conspiracy theorists. We're going to be called hardcore right wingers, and you know, all meant as insults too, not even like just slurs. These are outright character attacks if you have the nerve to suggest that the election process is lacking integrity. I mean, it has for a long time. I mean, during the Kennedy days, the joke was vote early, vote often. You know, the Daily Era in Chicago and all that. So the story doesn't really surprise me. I'm hoping it gets some serious coverage. I'm hoping that people pay attention. I think people are going to try to downplay it. So, you know, the more podcasters and more, you know, journalists that have a spine that get out there and actually talk about these stories, then maybe we can put a dent in it because, frankly, it concerns me. I don't care who hears this. When it comes to elections, I have very little faith that the results are accurate. I really do.
Well, I think the results are accurate, but not 100%, of course. I believe that there is fraud in almost every election in this country of some fashion or form. I don't care if it's a local election, it's the presidential election, it's, you know, it's for a bill, it's for a law, whatever. I do believe there is manipulation. I mean, you can go back. I did take a political science class in college, and the big thing is graft, the word graft. I know you've heard that a million times. It's thrown around in political science courses based upon a bribery scheme. So if there was bribery way back when times began, criminals are always ahead of law enforcement. You don't think these criminals are ahead of law enforcement here in elections? Yes, we both do. And we're not sitting here saying that the 2020 election, the presidential election, I don't have a story on that right now. I do know that laws were changed unconstitutionally, in my opinion, okay? But I'm not saying these mail-in ballots affected that. I'm just saying these mail-in ballots, particular story.
But things like not having to show identification that you're a legal citizen. I mean, you know, I come from a small town. They have a big piece of paper, and they draw a line through your name with a pencil when you vote. That way you can't vote again, you know? And these stories, like back to the presidential election, I'm just going to say one thing about that. I'm not going to say that Joe didn't win. Maybe he did. But 81 million votes. What bothered me was all the counties that reported 100%, 110%. How do you even have more people than are registered in the county vote without having a red flag being raised, on a good election, 67% people turn out, even on a hotly contested, election, which everyone has been.
And I find it very hard that more people voted for Joe Biden than Barack Obama.
Exactly. You want to put those two next to each other. You can call if Joe is the heir apparent. Obama is the lion. He is the top Democrat in the country. No question.
He's the head of the Democratic Party right now. And they are saying, no, there's another story out there now too, just not to deviate too far, but they're saying that he is the one that made Robert Hur write his report the way he did, by the way.
Wow.
From Obama.
But gratuitous. Imagine that word being used for a special investigation. Gratuitous.
Yep. So we may look at that down the road. Just pay attention to that. But we still got a lot to cover here at the We Are Marshall podcast. So we're going to move on to our second topic, which Bill will take over. And this one, to me, I didn't understand what the controversy was. Ridiculous. But go ahead. I'll listen to what you have found and say, and then we'll dialogue about it.
I'll be happy to tell you what I came up with, Steve. And I want to warn you ahead of time that I really did my absolute best to trim this story down to make it, a manageable segment, because it's really a lot to it. But my theme is Super Bowl today. Steve is going to have a theme of election integrity, and I'm going to have a theme of the Super Bowl. This part of the game for a lot of people is the commercials. Okay, so let's face it. Even when the game wasn't that exciting for the first three quarters, we always paid attention to the commercials. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm having a drink with my son, talking to different people, and all of a sudden I see this retro commercial come up on the TV, and there was an ad for RFK, but it was an iconic ad from JFK that was converted to basically represent RFK. And my first reaction is I don't know what to make of this, but I can't wait to see what happens tomorrow. Well, I was not disappointed when I woke up today to see the absolute brouhaha that has erupted over this ad. So what we have an ad that was appropriated. It was an actual 1960 ad for John F. Kennedy, which shows family members, it shows Shrivers, it shows all kinds of people, and there's a sign on it that says, vote Democrat. Well, what happened was they juxtaposed RFK's face over JFK's face when appropriate, and they took out the vote Democrat and they said vote independent. Okay. Well, the reaction was just, it was really something else. So the spot was created by American Values, which is the leading super PAC supporting RFK Jr.'s candidacy as an independent. Okay. So this is where the controversy comes in. He's an independent candidate without a lot of momentum. He sought to invoke his Democratic family's imprint on politics. Let's face it, the Kennedy name invokes a certain mystique to it, right? So his late uncle, John F. Kennedy, in the 1960 campaign, made an iconic commercial. So some descriptions of RFK's spot were that it mirrored a 1960 ad, but it used the audio on most of the vintage images with, like I said, they juxtaposed RFK's face over it. And he is now the family's fourth presidential candidate. And he's drawn some controversy over it. So I want to take a second and tell you what a super PAC is. I think people hear the words a lot, but don't necessarily know what it means. Super PAC is when a group acts on behalf of a group, but doesn't actually have affiliation with it. So they are not, that's why you hear the words, I approve this message and all that, because there are a lot of messages out there that weren't created by the candidate. This ad was not created by RF Kennedy. I'm not going to say that he didn't know about it, but he did not create this ad. But a super PAC is an independent expenditure-only committee. It's a modern breed of political action.
Just for the record, he did say today he did not know about it because it is against the law for the super PAC to coordinate and talk with his.
That's right.
Thank you. His election team, whatever. Go ahead.
That's right. Thank you. Good point.
Yep.
So super PACs, they raise and spend unlimited amounts of money from corporations. Their primary purpose is to influence the outcome of elections. by purchasing ad print, television, radio, other media marketing. The difference between super PACs and traditional PACs is that traditional PACs can only accept like $2,800 from individuals, but the super PACs have absolutely no limits. And I'm just going to leave it there. Okay, there are rules. And Steve, thank you. You just pointed out one that I was going to mention, is that they have to remain at a distance and cannot have any actual contact with the campaigns that they're representing. So if you want to go out there and start a PAC and say, I want Donald Trump to win, you raise a lot of money, you start creating commercials, and you say, we're created by so-and-so. Well, there's some allegations that might jump ahead here that the Kennedy campaign is colluding with this PAC, and we'll talk about that in a second. So my first reaction to this was recognized. I was watching a $7 million campaign ad, which is what the going rate for 30 seconds of Super Bowl ad time is this year. Yeah. But then a little homework revealed that in actuality, a 30-second political ad aired nationally is $7 million. So they actually didn't expend more money than they needed to. That's what it costs to do an ad like this anyway. So they did it in the most watched event of probably of the year. And it drew some definite attention. So my second reaction was that the ad didn't say anything. There was no substance of any kind, despite its purported political purposes, and it didn't even highlight any of his political his policy stances. So that was problematic for me. But it turns out that a lot of people felt the same way. But the ad enraged his family. Now, his family is not even supporting his presidential bid. None of them are on board. They call him a conspiracy theorist and an anti-vaxxer. And you and I had said when he first put his hat in the ring that his biggest liability is that Democrats are not going to get behind an anti-vaxxer. They're just not going to. So that was part of it. So immediately, Bobby Shriver, who of course was a long descendant of Sergeant Shriver, who founded the Peace Corps and was involved in all kinds of charitable adventures, said it used and observed that they used the face of his mother, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, former President Kennedy's sister. He said she'd be appalled by his deadly healthcare views. Respect for science, vaccines, and healthcare equity were in her DNA. And two of Bobby Shriver's siblings co-signed. Also, Maria retweeted the post, and Mark Shriver said, "I agree with my brother at Bobby Shriver. Simple as that." So nobody in the family is standing behind Robert Kennedy Jr. in this one. So Kennedy immediately offered an apology when the outrage started. This is where it's where you decide if it's palpable that he knew or didn't know about this ad. But let's just say he didn't. He went immediately to Twitter and he said, the ad was created and aired by the American Values Super PAC without any involvement or approval from my campaign. FEC rules prohibit Super PACs from consulting with me or my staff. I love you all. God bless you. But despite his apology, he still left the 30-second ad pinned to the top of his X feed, which according to public analytics was seen by nearly 3 million people by this morning even. So reactions from the Democrats were also swift and harsh. There's a magazine called The Intelligencer. The author, Ed Kilgore, for this magazine wrote a pretty scathing policy opinion piece today. So you don't have to hold a particularly negative opinion of the independent presidential candidacy of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to see that mistaken identity is his chief political asset. By any objective measure, the conspiracy theorist and anti-vax advocate does not share his family's renowned family's deep association with the mainstream of the Democratic Party. Yet, the very name Kennedy still evokes warm and fuzzy feelings among many voters who otherwise would not consider supporting a politician with his views, particularly if they are not voters who are familiar with those views. So even on its own terms, the Super Bowl ad makes no sense. The jingle touts Kennedy as a man for president who's seasoned through and through. Well, while RFK has never held public office. So that was a very stark contrast there. And the ad audio also refers to Kennedy as a man who's young enough to know and old enough to do so. Well, when JFK ran this ad, he was 43. That was young. RFK is 70. Okay, so that doesn't hold up either. So there's virtually no respect in which today's ex-Democrat Kennedy is congruent with the Democratic presidential nominee in 1960. And you like this, Steve. The paraphrase Lloyd Benson's rebuke of Dan Quayle's self-comparison to JFK in 1988. I remember it like it was yesterday. RFK Jr. is no Jack Kennedy. So I'm glad he threw that in there. That was pretty good. That doesn't reflect my stance, but I think that was pretty good. So further, the DNC reiterated that it has an ongoing battle with American Values Super PAC, stating that it's violated campaign finance laws by working side by side with the Kennedy campaign. And this issue was raised long before this commercial aired. So it's been a while building, and this is not helping. So Kennedy's campaign called the complaint by the DNC a non-issue and part of their effort to knock down the insurgent candidate in the lead up to the general election in the fall. This is a non-issue being raised by a partisan political entity that seems to be increasingly concerned with its own candidate and viability, meaning they think that Biden is in bad shape and they're trying to distance themselves from himself. So Kennedy told The Hill on Monday, "To my knowledge, we have yet to receive any signatures from American Values or any other PAC, nor we have provided any information that's not available to every volunteer and media outlet on our website. I'm aware they have their own signature collection tracker, but we take our FEC obligation seriously and are not permitted to tell PACs what they should and not do with their money." So Kennedy is hanging in. He's carrying a double digit numbers. His name is known, but he's running as an independent, and his candidacy as a rule is struggling. He's battling several states trying to get on the ballot. And we know how that works. This is what the Democrats are doing with Trump right now. Keep him off the ballot, he can't win the election. Well, they're doing the same thing to Kennedy. And unless he does win his multiple legal battles, he's not even going to be on the ballot anyways. But the further concern is that the Democratic Party, this is not an opinion, it's a pretty well understood and agreed upon concept here, is that the Democrats do not want him to be in the race because they feel that he will take votes away from Joe Biden, not Donald Trump. Now, there's another school of thought that says that people would vote for another Democrat other than Joe Biden and say, well, at least I did vote for a Democrat. I just couldn't in good conscience vote for Joe Biden, so it could go the other way. But there's a very serious concern among the DNC about the viability of how many votes that RFK could take away from Joe Biden. So that's really the story. I mean, to wrap it up, he said, if Kilgore also said, I think Kennedy needs to figure out if he's actually running as independent or if he's going to run as a libertarian. Until then, his campaign is dead in the water. So it's an interesting story, Steve. I could have a lot more to say about it, but I tried to really keep it tight and coherent. But it's an interesting story because I think the third party angle is a big topic of discussion, and I think that the intention of the super PAC to draw attention to their candidate, it definitely worked. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think that's what they wanted, and they tried to utilize the Kennedy name as a branding thing for RFK. He didn't really need to say anything. What they wanted to do was tie him to JFK so more Democrats would get behind him. Because for whatever reason, okay, the Democrats in this country and the Democratic Party hold John F. Kennedy up in this big air. But if you really look deep, John F. Kennedy was a terrible president. He was not a good president. Okay,
no,
I think they just I think they just liked his personality, that he was one of the younger guys that got elected into office, and that name, the family name that they had. Whereas that family name, I don't know how it got to such heights in political. It was actually a mafioso type name. They generated all their money in prohibition. Why would they get mad at RFK other than disliking him for his beliefs than to put the Kennedy name back out into the, political stratosphere? It's not there anymore, as much as it used to be. So why not let him do it? I think the guy genuinely has a nice heart. He seems like a nice guy, but he does go off the cliff on some issues that I don't like. The guy seems okay, but yes, you are 100%. He is going to steal a ton of votes from Joe Biden, okay?
Yeah.
For one of the reasons you said, Bill, and that they want to vote Democrat, but they just can't in the right mind vote for a guy that's not in the right mind, okay? So
Right.
they're going to have a hard.
Well put, sir.
Yeah, but I do also believe that some of those people that would vote for RFK are going to go to Trump. I think the sentiment I hear out there, I've seen some, minorities talking recently that are just, guys that go to work every day trying to support their family and their kids and their wife, and they're basically saying, I had money under Trump. I have no money under Biden.
Right.
And Carville hit it under the Clinton campaign when he said, "It is the economy, stupid." It's so true. Yes, the number one issue was border, but now you're going to tie border to the economy. Okay, the scary thing for the Republicans, well, they are seeing some good stuff in the economy. It's still not great by any means or gauge, but there are things that seem to be changing. So we'll see what RFK has to do in this election. It's going to be interesting, and he may run again after this, and that may be his time, because right now
this is good for him now, though, Steve, because 74% of Democrats weighed in on Joe Biden's age as an issue, which essentially, when they weigh in on the age thing, is essentially they're saying they don't have confidence in him to run for a second term, right? Call it what it is.
Yeah.
74%. And it also has been revealed that in multiple polls, the margin of error, notwithstanding, minority votes, and just for the sake of this conversation, Black and Latino, he's lost 20% of support from both bases. That's enormous.
Well, Biden's hurting, but we're going to see what happens. I mean, he is running. He is running up against a guy that's got a lot of charges against him, felonious charges. So
he does.
We'll see what happens. This could
see. That's the title.
Be the only reason Biden wins, because Trump's got all those charges, and he won the last time because everybody was mad at Trump. No one is voting for Joe Biden because he's Joe Biden. That's it.
No, but this is going to be one of those. I'm going to vote against a candidate, not vote for a candidate election. It's just another one. We keep having them,
because the media is never going to let us get a great candidate anyway. We know this, but good topic. We're looking forward to what you have in the next one. But I'm going to jump right into my the third topic here, my second one on mail-in ballot fraud. So here at the We Are Marshall podcast, we'd like you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Locals, X, Truth Social, and, of course, where our channel is on Rumble. You can download the Rumble application for free and then sign up for the We Are Marshall podcast. But the next story I got here, Bill, is Texas official and 3 others indicted on 134 felonies in a mail-in ballot fraud case, okay? So with top Republicans, including the president, Trump, bringing up claims of fraud involving voting by mail, indictments announced Thursday against a Democratic county commissioner in East Texas appear to bolster these accusations. The office of Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton announced 134 felony charges were filed against Gregg County Commissioner Shannon Brown and 3 co-defendants in connection to alleged vote harvesting scheme involving a Democratic primary in 2018. According to Paxton's office, Brown and others targeted young, able-bodied voters to cast ballots by mail by fraudulently claiming the voters were disabled, in most cases without the voters' knowledge or consent. The indictments claim this was done to increase the pool of ballots needed to swing the race in Brown's favor. In recent months, Paxton, a Republican, has led the charge in quelling vote-by-mail opportunities that he believes violate state law, citing those ballots are specifically reserved for those who are physically ill and cannot vote in person as a result. There is an ongoing court battle between Paxton and Harris County Clerk Chris Hollins, involving the latter sending unsolicited vote-by-mail applications to more than 2 million registered voters. It is an unfortunate reality that elections can be stolen outright by mail ballot fraud. Election fraud, particularly an organized mail ballot fraud scheme orchestrated by political operatives. It is an affront to democracy and results in voter disenfranchisement and corruption at the highest level, said Paxton. Mail ballots are vulnerable to diversion, coercion, and influence by organized vote harvesting schemes. This case demonstrates my commitment to ensuring Texas has the most secure elections in the country, and I thank the Gregg County Sheriff and District Attorney for their continued partnership. Those who try to manipulate the outcome of elections in Texas must be held accountable. The vote by mail issue has been prominently voiced by President Trump, who went as far as admitting to blocking U.S. Postal Service funding to stop mail in ballots. Like Paxton, Trump claims the possibility of voter fraud. Democrats, however, contend voter suppression in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic. Back in May, the Texas Supreme Court ruled a fear of the virus is not a valid reason to request a mail-in ballot. So the bottom line is, if this is what's so scary, the Texas Supreme Court ruled that because you're afraid to get coronavirus, you don't deserve a mail-in ballot. So now that has to be carried up to the Supreme Court now, so it be held to all the states. So if the Texas Supreme Court says it, it does not mean that it's going to be a federal mandate by the Supreme Court, because we got to understand, Texas is by far a Republican state still. Their court
it's getting pretty purple, though.
Still, their court system is definitively Republican. So they're going to rule in this way because they don't believe in mail-in ballots. They like the going to the booth and voting, like most people, presenting an ID. I mean, the bottom line, we should all be doing this. There is no voter suppression going on because you're trying to make an election safe and secure. I'm really sick of hearing that from the left. Anytime we want to put something in place, it's going to disenfranchise one of their voters, and it's going to make it unruly for them to go vote, and all these things that they throw at you that's going to be voter suppression. But they never want to focus on voter integrity, which is a big problem. And I'm never going to say Trump was fully right on this issue, but I got to say, there is starting to be smoke in little areas all over the country right now, and we need to start paying attention to it. You know what I'm saying, Bill?
I do. Trump is starting to look more right as time goes on. He's going to be a much better president as time goes on, historically remembered for his accuracy. He called a lot of things, and there are still people who will never, ever admit that the man was right about anything, but they might say, they might think it. So the mail-in ballot thing was COVID. Okay, COVID caused the mail-in ballot thing. It was absolutely seized upon by election officials as a way to manipulate ballots. Okay, so the balloting, they had cases in which households were being mailed 15 to 20 ballots and hoping that they would fill them all out. I mean, it was just sad how it worked. And it's so, we know this is true because as soon as the primary started and COVID flared up again in the winter, like it always does, they immediately started pushing for the shutdowns and all that stuff, which, by the way, is disgraceful when you think of what it's done to the kids, the workplace, mostly the kids. What it's done to the education of children is just ridiculous, okay? They will never know, well, we will, but not for a long time, the damage done to the children who weren't able to go to school. They don't think about the kids that rely on schools for their meals, for their safety, for their security, keep them off the street. Latchkey kids whose parents send them to school without a lunch and all that stuff. These kids had nowhere to go when they were home during COVID. And the Democrats were perfectly fine with pushing these agendas of shutting stuff down again and quarantining and all that because they want to take another election. I know someone's going to get mad at me for saying that, but you know what? I'm sorry. If you do your homework, it's all there. Everybody can see it. When they start talking about a candidate and when their guy's in trouble, all of a sudden, hey, let's rely on mail-in ballots. I cannot stand mail-in ballots. Americans should treat the vote like it is. When we first made progress in Iraq, we actually were able to establish elections. Okay, guys going by an election center with a car bomb and killing 30 people standing outside. That's election suppression. Okay, trying to scare people away from voting. That's suppression. Everything else, this is not suppression. Okay, and when you talk about the damage done by mail-in voting, it made the difference in the election. I really believe it did.
Well, I think it helped, but I do believe that them changing the laws against the state constitution in Arizona, Pennsylvania, and a few other places really hurt that to enable the mail-in voting. But here's something. Let me ask you a question. Let me just do an exercise here.
A rhetorical or a real one?
No, it's a real one, but let's just say, let's say hypothetically though, but it could be real. Let's say you got the Democrat Party, the Republican Party, and they're running for office like they always do, right? Mm-hmm. And now we have a no-name party, right? So so basically, do you think the people want another party?
No, I think we want less parties. I think people want a one-party system.
I disagree. I think we'll never have a one-party system, so I think they want a multitude of choices. We always want choices. And
yes.
Okay, so let's say one of those Republican or Democrat entities sues the no-name party to try to get rid of them. Would you think that would be voter suppression because the people want a third candidate?
Yes.
Well, how ironic that the Democratic Party is suing the no-name party and trying to eradicate Joe Lieberman and the no-name party. Joe Lieberman, who was a vice presidential candidate for the Democratic Party in an election, they have now ostracized him because he's going against the Democratic Party and supporting the no-name party. That to me is voter suppression. Let the people decide. Let the candidates come out no matter where they're from, what party they're in, and let us, the people, decide, not the people up there that are trying.
Steve, they want people to vote and vote who they tell them to vote for.
And they do, and that's what's terrible. But this is the stuff we're looking at out there, my friends. Pay attention. You got the election coming up. Bill and I are going to have many stories like this as it goes, because we want you to really pay attention this time, and we're not going to let the likes of any social media try to ban us because we're trying to tell the truth. What we just dictated to you on any of that are stories you can look up in mainstream media right now. So it is not
by all means, fact check us. We do our homework, and we're dedicated to the truth.
We will retract it and state it on the air. But we are not doing any of this at this time. So here at the We Are Marshall podcast, we've got another topic for Bill. He's got 2 segments going ahead here. So we're going to let him grab this next one. And this one just drives me crazy. Go ahead, Bill.
You know, Steve, part of some of the hair on my neck stood up when I decided to do this topic today because I know I'm gonna piss somebody off, and I'm gonna try to be really, really.
I know where you're going with it, and
even-handed and neutral on this subject. I'm just going to present the facts.
Let's ride that little bus right to where you're going. I know where you're going.
And let's drive into the Las Vegas Coliseum and talk about the Black National Anthem. A very, very divisive thing. Now, it's a visceral issue to every non-racist. I don't care if you're a black non-racist or a white non-racist or a Hispanic non-racist. There are people like me who are sick of talking about race and sick of everything being about race. I think Steve falls into this category as well.
Absolutely.
Sick of everything being about race. We want to do what Morgan Freeman said. The best way is just not talk about race. But identity politics still just rules the land. And now we have the Black National Anthem. So initially, reading the headline, the knee-jerk reaction is to go, but there is more to it, okay? The problem is that it's not necessarily a national anthem. It's a song. It's been around since 1899. It's called Lift Every Voice and Sing, okay? It was at the time, now remember, the blacks wouldn't get the right to vote for 60-something years after the song was written. There's a lot of oppression going on in this country at the time the song was written. It was meant to lift people up, and it was first performed in 1900 to celebrate Abraham Lincoln's birthday. But then the NAACP, who used to be a very prominent and effective organization, used to be operative words here, promoted it as a symbol of black pride and unity. Again, no problem with that, okay? Unity and pride, absolutely. We all want to have that. But not, against other races to create division. So the song was also considered a hymn. It was written as a poem. Excuse me. It was a hymn written as a poem, is what it was. Written by leader James Weldon Johnson in 1900. Later adopted by the NAACP, as I said. It became a landmark of African American culture. And according to Time magazine, it was performed during meetings where civil rights leaders planned the Montgomery bus boycott, and has been quoted often by Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But the story has generated a lot of controversy. And of course, you're going to have your politicians who are going to weigh in on it. But a lot of people, majority of the people, I want to say like 85% of the people in attendance at the Super Bowl did not stand for this, which means they did not recognize it as an anthem. All right. But the producers and the artists performing it continue to call it an anthem. So there's the outrage. So I got a few stories, a few opinion pieces which shed light on the dynamics of this story.
Well, let me ask you this: if it's a national anthem, right?
Yeah.
How come they weren't kneeling?
That's another thing. I was actually happy yesterday that at least we weren't seeing any kneeling, because I would turn it off. I cannot. I hate that, and I know the issues. I know Kaepernick had said that it's about police officers. Wrong, because the number didn't support it, but it wasn't anti-whitey and all that.
But my point is, it was more or less the blacks that knelt and were against our national anthem.
Right.
Okay, right. It was a national anthem. Now this is a black national anthem, a national anthem. How come they're not nailing it their own national anthem?
Oh, well, I think we know the answer to that.
Well, it's a rhetorical question. It's just to be said. But continue.
It's a good point, and I'm not going to lie to you. I was afraid to say it.
I'm not going to be.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I use the word afraid, but I was reluctant. But no, very good, very valid point. So there's a few opinion pieces that I ran across that try to give a balanced opinion. It's like a three-way issue here, okay? But the Washington Examiner was author of two opposing opinion pieces, and I want to touch on them both, based upon real stories, okay? The first one, a Democratic lawmaker criticizes fans for not standing during, and I hate this word, Negro National Anthem, which was originally what it was called, but I think that generally people don't use that word anymore. Representative Steve Cohen of Tennessee, Democrat, he criticized Super Bowl fans for not standing at attention for the performance of Lift Every Voice and Sing, which he referred to as the Negro National Anthem. I bet he caught hell for that. The song, performed by singer Andra Day, was one of the several performed before kickoff, with the others being the National Anthem, America the Beautiful. And prior to the start of these songs, the announcer had not asked any of the attendees to stand for attention. All right. So very, very few stood at the Super Bowl for Lift Every Voice and Sing, Cohen, who was white, wrote on social media. The Negro National Anthem is not a pretty picture of a Super Bowl crowd. So footage of the crowd behind Day showed that many fans, including multiple black people, were not standing for the performance of Lift Every Voice and Sing. So, okay, is there a point when you say that no one asked them to? Yes, I think it's a valid point. But I'm sure there are people who disagree with that. The performance was criticized by several prominent conservatives, including Megyn Kelly and Representative Matt Gaetz from Florida. Kelly argued that the United States already has a national anthem that includes capital letters, everyone. While Gaetz said he would not be watching the game because the song would be performed. Meanwhile, Representative Richie Torres, Democrat in New York, supported the performance, arguing the Black National Anthem has been a part of our nation's history since the early 20th century. Okay, so in 2021, Representative James Clyburn, a Democrat of South Carolina, floated the idea of creating a plan to make the Black National Anthem the hymn of the U.S. to show unity. So that's an interesting take, but it's kind of a fairly balanced one considering how it starts out. So now we have the Matt Gaetz story. Go ahead, Steve.
So basically, this gentleman that said that the song's been around for a long time, right? Is he a conservative?
Well, no, many people confirmed that, but in this case, it was a Democrat who said that.
He made that statement. To have our traditions is a conservative view. So what is he saying? That the conservatives were right when they wanted all these historical statues all around because they've been moving for a long time, and these flags and all these things. All I'm doing, Bill, right there is pointing out.
I like what you're doing. You keep doing it. I like it. Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah, but the thing about the statues, Steve, is that people are afraid of history now. They're offended by stuff that already happened. And
unless it's the
everybody knows.
Anthem.
Yeah, right, exactly. And everybody know that these things are not here for you to be offended by or like. It's to either learn from or just keep moving, you know?
And I don't want to
So,
steal your thunder, but I'm sure you may go in this direction. But where's the Hispanic national anthem? The
well,
Asian
that,
national anthem?
yeah, you're not stealing it, but it's a great point, and it might as well come up now.
Yep,
If that's the case, then when we have one with German immigrants,
yep,
Haitian immigrants,
yep.
Dominican immigrants, I mean, I don't have time or energy or knowledge to
So,
recite
so,
every
so should we
nationality.
bring the creators of "It's a Small World" into our country and make them create a national anthem? It's a
You know,
small.
as funny as you're trying to be, Steve, that's actually a brilliant way to put it. Really, that's
It's
awesome.
not really that I'm trying to be funny, though. But with us, you know that. But I'm just trying to
No, but
point out
that's perfect because sometimes you have to make an extreme statement to point out the absurdity of some of
exactly.
these things,
Thank
right?
you. Yes. Yep.
So I love it because I didn't have the alliterative skills to do what you just did tonight. I'm just so good for you. Thank you. So the second story is also by the Washington Examiner, and it says um, Matt Gaetz refuses. This is from Newsweek. Matt Gaetz refuses to watch Super Bowl because of Black national anthem. So ahead of the Super Bowl 58, Representative Matt Gaetz, a Florida Republican, who's been in the news a lot, said on Sunday he will not watch the game because of a scheduled performance of the Black national anthem. In a post on X, Gaetz noted an exchange he had with his wife about this year's Super Bowl. Wife, today is a Super Bowl. Me, we aren't watching. Wife, why? Me, they're desecrating America's national anthem by playing something called the Black national anthem. Wife, does that mean Cardi B is performing? He joked. Okay, so Newsweek has reached out to Gaetz and NAACP for a comment as of right now. I don't know if they got one or not, but this is not the first time, okay, that Let There Be Voices Sing has been performed in the Super Bowl in conjunction with it, anyways, or any other national football NFL games. It was previously performed in 2020 before all 16 of the Week 1 games, according to NFL. And the song was played during a time the league said it was working to amplify work done by its players and the families who were trying to address social justice issues. This was amid the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. Now, the song has encouraged generations of blacks that God will lead us to the promises of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. The NFL's Troy Vincent had said at the time. It's as pertinent in today's environment as it was when it was written. Following the 2020 racial protests after the murder of George Floyd at the hands of police, the NFL sought to confront what many players have described as systemic racism following years of protests. In addition, Grammy Award-winning singer Alicia Keys performed the song in a pre-recorded video before the 2021 Super Bowl. The following year, Mary performed the song from outside SoFi Stadium at the Super Bowl, and last year Cheryl Lee Ralph performed the song on the field before the Chiefs took on the Eagles.
Bill, I got the perfect person to perform the Black national anthem.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
Jesse Smollett.
Oh, why not? Yeah.
Jesse
Nice.
Smollett is a very good singer. I won't take away from his ability. He was on his show Empire. He epitomizes all that. Maybe he's the one that should have been touted out there to do that. Amazing.
Well, he needs the work.
He does need to work now. Yeah. Yeah, his did not work out well.
You're killing me tonight. You are really on a roll tonight.
Good.
So anyways, in response to the song being performed at this 2023 Super Bowl, Republican Representative Lauren Boebert, you can always count on her, of Colorado, shared a post on then Twitter, writing, America has, all capital letters, one national anthem. Why is the NFL trying to divide us by playing multiple? Do football, not woke.
But it's not just the NFL, because if we really look at things, all lives matter. All we focused on was Black Lives Matter. Now we're only focused on a Black national anthem. Why is it always that, honestly, to me, I mean, the people that get behind these things for, say, blacks, they're the most racist people I've ever seen in my life, because they want to segregate the blacks from the rest of society. Didn't we want to get rid of segregation way back in the day? I don't understand.
It is sad. It's something I was reluctant to mention, but I not only have I seen it myself, but I know people who could tell you stories about how they're discriminated against just because they're white. The color of their skin, that's all it is. They don't want it. They don't know them. They don't want to know them. They don't care to know them. And they don't care. They don't know them. It's bad. But again, no lumping at the categories. I'm like to think it's a small percentage of people. It may not be, but I like to think it is. So there's been a lot of criticism of this stuff over the years. Okay, Hannity did it. He got on it. He said it injects politics into sports, and several conservative pundits also complained when Vanessa Williams performed it during a PBS 4th of July special a few years ago. So it's not a new thing. I think some people thought this is the first year because they had more publicity about it, but it has been going on for many years. So the third piece is from the Washington Examiner again, and it's that the NFL must learn there's only one national anthem.
Yes.
I'm not going to lie to you. I lean towards this one the most, but like I said, all sides matter. The NFL will continue trying to disunite America by featuring 2 separate anthems, the article starts. To begin the Super Bowl, our country has one national anthem with speech for all its citizens. To suggest otherwise is anathema. It also happened last year. Fans will be asked to stand at attention. Well, they weren't. But not just for the Star Spangled Banner, but for Lift Every Voice and Sing, and long known colloquially as a Black national anthem. It's a lovely song, a paean to liberty, and a worthy expression of Black people's historical struggle to overcome unspeakable mistreatment. Its final sentiments, despite the gloomy past, are admirably patriotic. May we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land. This being so, it is important to explain why it's a bad idea being sung alongside the national anthem. The affront lies not in the message within the song, but in the message sent by when and how the song is to be presented. By pairing it with the national anthem and expecting attendees to stand at attention, the NFL signals that the Star Spangled Banner does not speak for everyone. Rather than respecting a single unifying anthem, the league presents 2, one for white people and one for Black people, as if the latter was not included in the meaning and grandeur of the first. This is part of the liberal left's radical racial agenda of national division, identity politics, there we go, define people by racial or sexual group membership while immutably characterizing each group and each person within it as a victim or a victimizer, rather than one history in which modern sensibilities demand that Black people receive equal recognition. Separatism suggests that there must be a separate month for Black history. Rather than one course of mathematics, the world's educrats push a separate Black mathematics. The separate Black anthem is a musical endorsement of the forces and agenda that are driving deep fissures into our culture and threatening our society. Can I get an amen? I'm sorry.
Yep, absolutely.
There it is.
I have a question. You said something a couple of paragraphs back that was, who was the one, because I missed it, that said within what you were what you wrote down, true to native land?
Well, that's one of the lyrics I was hoping you'd pick up on, because isn't the narrative that we took people from their native land and kidnapped them and brought them here?
Yes. See, I don't know the Black national anthem.
No, that's an actual lyric from the song.
That's the lyric in the song.
Yeah. That's what I was reading it.
And the Democrats are pushing this. This isn't the Blacks' true native land. This is Africa. This is the Indians that they continuously blame the white man for. And now the Blacks are usurping this land in their own national anthem. Wow.
Right.
I don't even know.
Any other day, the narrative is going to be, you kidnapped us, you took us here, you mistreated us, and now you owe us, right? That's really been the narrative.
We didn't take him there. Their people sold them to bring them here. So enough of that, too. The narrative.
The largest and first major slave owner of this country was Black. Well, if you say that to somebody, they lose their mind.
They don't want to listen. Well, look, here's something that I know you'll love. You know who Sonny Hostin is, right?
Oh, God. On The View.
No, this is fantastic news, my friend. Sonny Hostin did a deep dive into her ancestry through one of those websites and found out that her family were slave owners.
Oh, no. Did she admit it?
She admitted it on air, and she's all distraught about it. Oh, wow. That's the problem. And we all shouldn't pay for generations ago. We're not like that. We've all changed and evolved. Enough is enough. You're so right. We got to stop, not maybe talking about it, but stop banging the banner that there is racism on this country.
It's such a simple concept, okay? Steve, you're not a white man. You're a man.
Exactly.
Okay? You meet a person from anywhere, I don't care where in the world. if you don't look at him as a man first, and I'm not trying to exclude women, if you don't look at a person as a person first, rather than where they come from, that is racism. You make an assumption about a person's character or ability to function or whatever, or level of society they can achieve by the color of their skin. That's racism.
But we keep doing it in this country because it's something that I railed about in a podcast a while ago, if you remember. Why are we always saying this is the first Hispanic woman to do this? The first black man to do this. I mean, who cares? Again, you're the first person to do it. Good job.
Because we constantly rail for meritocracy, Steve, okay? Being black, being white, being gay, being straight, being trans, being or Asian, that's not an accomplishment.
Right.
That's a happenstance, okay? Your parents got together and they had sex. That's why you're here, okay? And after that, it doesn't matter. What you do with your life should be up to you, and people should not stop you from reaching your potential because they make an assumption of your character based upon what you look like. I'll talk race with anybody all day long, okay? There's no guns allowed. Because seriously, this is the stupidest thing. I'm just tired of it. Do I have an opinion on this national anthem thing? Yes. It's not an anthem.
But the
Nobody disputes the validity of the song.
But the big thing that's going to happen to us, Bill, is they're going to say, look at these two older white men just railing against a black. They're both race. We are not race. We love everybody. Like you said, we don't see you as a color. We see you as a human being, Be a good human being, and we'll all love you. But we're going to start.
We're the entitled class, right? You and I are the epitome of white supremacy because we're older white men. I know. I get it.
I know. Let's move right on to your This Day in History on the We Are Marshall podcast. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe on all our social media and our channel on Rumble. You can follow and subscribe. Go ahead, Bill, on your This Day in History.
All right. So this one real quick here. Let's give me a second. I lost my place. All right. So this is a fun story. It's a short one also. We all know the painting The Scream by Edvard Munch. Well, apparently this can't find it. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I lost the page. It is This Day in History though. There we go.
Just give a brief synopsis of it. That's all.
Yeah, well, yeah, but there's some detail I can't leave out.
But we got to move on. We can't do that.
No, I got it. Two men stole Edvard Munch's The Scream in just 50 seconds, and how authorities managed to get the painting back. An interesting story. Two men in one van in 50 seconds, all it took to steal one of the most famous paintings in history. Today marks 30 years since the theft of Edvard Munch's famous The Scream, and it enraged and captivated Norway and art lovers around the world. What followed was a lengthy sting operation, ransom demands, and recovery efforts featuring specialized art theft squads and multiple police forces. And here's how it happened. It's called Thanks for the Poor Security. In the early hours of February 12, 1994, as the waking city of Oslo prepares to welcome the Winter Olympics, two men pull up in front of the National Gallery. They leave the engine running, dart across the street, set a ladder against the gallery's side. Grainy security camera footage captures one man scramble up to a second-floor window, smashes it, and climbs inside. Inside is The Scream. He snips the wires holding it onto the wall, carries it to the window, uses the ladder as a conveyor belt, slides it down. In less than a minute, it's gone. In its place is a note that says, "Thanks for the poor security." Such was the scene police discovered when they arrived at the gallery shortly after. Summoned by a security guard out the open window finally triggered an alarm. All the windows were locked, gallery director Newt Berg told reporters. And he wrote a book about it, The Rescue Artist. He didn't figure that thieves would climb through broken glass. Well, that's pretty lame. So they ended up having a massive search, of course. And any thieves, gallery officials assured the media would find it impossible to sell the painting without being noticed. So the Norwegian painter had created 4 different versions of this work, where the original was the one that was stolen. So according to Donlik, the Norwegian police assumed the ransom demand was imminent. As the days and weeks passed, none came. There was one natural suspect, a former athlete named Pal. I can't pronounce with the ampersand there. Enger, already a known art thief. He denied any involvement despite cameras picking him up among the gallery visitors the day before. He had a sense of humor about it. He said 2 months into the theft, he placed a notice in the newspaper announcing the birth of his son, who arrived, in quotes, with a scream. So the Scotland Yard detective's dodgy art dealer alias comes up. The Scotland Yard detective Charles Hill had been tracking down art thieves undercover for 15 years when the scream was taken. He says the robbers were a bunch of no-hopers, which I guess means, failures. They're not necessarily art lovers, but they look at it as trophies. And as he's working with the Metropolitan Police's art and antiques unit, he was assigned the case. He said, we came up with a plan, propose the representatives of J. Paul Getty Museum in California, tell these guys there's money to be had if they give us the picture back. And the London police officer, Charles Hill, became a slightly dodgy mid-Atlantic accented art dealer. That's how he posed. And what we did in this particular case was go to from a person who knew someone else, and we just followed that chain till we met the people who actually controlled the painting. When we met the bad guys, we convinced them that the Getty Museum would pay to recover the painting. And eventually they called them up and said, right, we're going to do it now. And that's really, the story goes on and on and on, but it was that easy. They just bribed them to get it back. And this painting is almost invaluable. It's a huge piece of work. So an interesting story. I didn't really like everything that the History Channel had to offer today, so I found that one.
Well, kind of a silly little theft on a large piece of art. It's just crazy. That painting. To even say that, thank you for having such shoddy security. That's just terrible, especially when you got something that's worth as much as this is. It's actually it's an iconic painting. Many people, as you alluded to, would know about it. It's just I never knew about this story, didn't know it was stolen or anything. So
I didn't either. I'm so
talking about this day in history. We always learn something about something in that segment. So I love it. And
I have 2 pillowcases in my room, Steve, that have the scream on it. And I never knew that story.
You should have had them here. But we're at the end of the podcast, and every time we finish the podcast with a good human interest story, feel-good story, a technological breakthrough, or a medical breakthrough. And I do love the medical breakthroughs a lot because
me too.
We talk about stuff like this, Bill and I, all the time based upon his health, and I worry about people around me's health, so I like to always find revolutionary things. So this one today I found is stem cells in menstrual blood have thrilling potential for health, including diagnosing endometriosis. Long overlooked menstrual stem cells could be the source of important medical applications. Roughly 20 years ago, a biologist named Caroline Gargett went in search of some remarkable cells and tissue that had been removed during the hysterectomy surgeries. The cells came from the endometrium, which lines the inside of the uterus. When Gargett cultured the cells in a petri dish, they looked like round clumps surrounded by a clear pink medium. But examining them with a microscope, she saw what she was looking for. 2 kinds of cells, one flat and one roundish. The other elongated and tapered, with whisker-like protrusions. Gargett strongly suspected that the cells were adult stem cells, rare, highly valued, self-renewing cells, some of which can become many different types of tissues. She and other researchers had long hypothesized that the endometrium contained stem cells, given its remarkable capacity to regrow itself each month. The tissue, which provides a site for an embryo to implant during pregnancy and is shed during the menstruation, undergoes roughly 400 rounds of shedding and regrowth before a woman reaches menopause. But although scientists had isolated adult stem cells from many other regenerating tissues, including bone marrow, the heart, and muscle, no one had identified adult stem cells in endometrium, Gargett says. Such cells are highly valued for their potential to repair damaged tissue and treat diseases such as cancer and heart failure. But they exist in low numbers throughout the body and can be tricky to obtain, requiring a surgical biopsy or extracting bone marrow with a needle. The prospect of a previously untapped source of adult stem cells was thrilling on its own, says Gargett. And it also raised the exciting possibility of a new approach to long-neglected women's health conditions, such as endometriosis. Before she could claim that the cells were truly stem cells, Garget and her team at Monash University in Australia had to put them through a series of rigorous tests. First, they measured the cell's ability to proliferate and self-renew, and found that some of them could divide into about 100 cells within a week. They also showed that the cells could indeed differentiate into endometrial tissue and identified certain telltale proteins that are present in other types of stem cells. Holistic approach to endometriosis, THC, holds promise as possible first-of-kind treatment for women with endometriosis. Garget, who is now also with the Hudson Institute of Medical Research, and her colleagues went on to characterize several types of self-renewing cells in the endometrium. But only the whiskered cells, called endometrial stromal mesenchymal stem cells, were truly multipotent, with the ability to be coaxed into becoming fat cells, bone cells, or even the smooth muscle cells found in organs such as the heart. Around the same time, two independent research teams made another surprising discovery. Some endometrial stromal mesenchymal stem cells could be found in menstrual blood. Garget was surprised that the body would so readily shed its precious stem cells, since they are so important for the survival and function of organs. She didn't think the body would waste them by shedding them, but she also recognized the finding's significance. Rather than relying on an invasive surgical biopsy to obtain the elusive stem cells she identified in the endometrium, she could collect them via menstrual cup. Garget's team has shown that these special stem cells are present in both the lower and upper layers of the endometrium. The cells are typically wrapped around blood vessels in a crescent shape, where they are thought to help stimulate vessel formation and play a vital role in repairing and regenerating the upper layer of tissue that gets shed each month during the menstruation. The layer is crucial to pregnancy, providing support and nourishment for a developing embryo. The layer in the endometrial stem cells that prod its growth also appears to play an important role in infertility. An embryo can't implant if the layer doesn't thicken enough. Endometrial stem cells have also been linked to endometriosis, a painful condition that affects roughly 190 million women and girls worldwide. Although much about the condition isn't fully understood, researchers hypothesize that one cause is the backflow of menstrual blood into the woman's fallopian tube. Endometrial stem cells that get deposited in these areas may cause endometrial-like tissue to grow outside of the uterus, leading to lesions that can cause excruciating pain, scarring, and in many cases, infertility. That's endometriosis. Researchers are still developing a reliable, non-invasive test to diagnose endometriosis, and patients wait an average of nearly 7 years before receiving a diagnosis. But studies have shown that stem cells collected from the menstrual blood of women with endometriosis have different shapes and patterns of gene expression than cells from healthy women. Several labs are working on ways to use these differences in menstrual stem cells to identify women at a higher risk of the condition, which could lead to faster diagnosis and treatment. Menstrual stem cells may also have therapeutic applications. Some researchers working on mice, for example, have found that injecting menstrual stem cells into the rodent's blood can repair the damaged endometrium and improve fertility. Other research in lab animals suggests that menstrual stem cells could have therapeutic potential beyond gynecological diseases. In a couple of studies, for example, injecting menstrual stem cells into diabetic mice stimulated regeneration of insulin-producing cells and improved blood sugar levels, and another treating injuries with stem cells or their secretions helped heal wounds in mice. A handful of small but promising clinical trials have found that menstrual stem cells can be transplanted into humans without adverse side effects. Garget's team is also attempting to develop human therapies. She and her colleagues are using endometrial stem cells, those taken directly from the endometrial tissue rather than menstrual blood, to engineer a biodegradable mesh to treat pelvic organ prolapse, a common painful condition that is often caused by childbirth, despite the convenience of collecting adult multipotent stem cells from menstrual blood. Research exploring and utilizing the stem cells' power and their potential role in disease still represents a tiny fraction of stem cell research, says Daniela Tonelli Banaca, an anthropologist leading studies at Brazil's State University of Campinas. but she and others have turned menstruation into an exciting new frontier in regenerative medicine. It's not just a monthly inconvenience anymore. It's the frontier in regenerative medicine. That's amazing. Like we always, here we are. These women are. To me, it's like, why was a woman bleeding like this every month? I know their body, but like they're saying, that's excreting some very valuable things. It's amazing that no one ever, until now, really went through that to see what
that's exactly what I was going to say. Exactly.
Blows my mind. It is blood.
Yeah.
There are a lot of good things in blood. Why aren't we looking at it? That blood is usually where children are born and come from, and this is where the world starts.
It comes from the absolute focal point of where life begins.
Yes, which is amazing. I mean, they're going on Mars to try to look at the beginnings of life. They go into the heated areas of water to try to look for the beginning of life. But life is born there and created there. Why didn't you look there? I mean, I think you and I need to do some investigating on this subject, Bill, if you get what I'm saying.
I was aware of what the menstrual cycle is. It is the the flushing out of an egg and creating it all over again on a monthly basis. And it doesn't take a long stretch to realize that there must be such a wealth of genetic gold there. And if you want to talk about stem cells, okay, one of the biggest controversies in this country has always been Planned Parenthood and what's done with the babies that are aborted. In a long time,
stem cells, yes,
it's stem cells, and the Republicans have always had a problem with it. And one of the reasons they want to slash the Planned Parenthood budget for moral and religious reasons, and the Democrats, I'm not going to say they have nefarious motivations, but they've always been more open to the scientific aspect of it. But stem cells are going to be able to cure stroke victims, brain injuries, all these things. Stem cells are building blocks to repair injuries in people's bodies. It can cure disease. If you have a generic or at least an accessible source for such cells, this is a breakthrough even bigger than initially thought, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It is common sense that's where life is born. They should have checked that. It's amazing. But we're at the end of the podcast. We appreciate everybody coming out. Like we always tell you, we're just two guys discussing the issues of the day, laying out the facts as you saw, giving our viewpoint and our opinion on those facts. Please go at the We Are Marshall podcast. We'd love for you to go check out our YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Locals, X, and Truth Social, so you can share our episodes all over your social media and get our name out there, help us to grow a little bit more so we can bring you even more and more content. And also go on over to Rumble, download. It's a free application, very similar to YouTube. They're just more of a free speech application than YouTube is. And you can see our channel there, and you can subscribe and follow and get notified of any of our new content. We also have a webpage. It's at wearemarshallpodcast.com. You can go on there, and there's a link to Bill's blogs. There's a link to Bill's Vela, which are the stories he's writing on Kindle Publishing. And you can also go get my book on Amazon, The Unforeseen Enemy. And I will be releasing a second book this Friday called The Perception Therapist. So do support us in our endeavors so we can grow and bring you much of this content. We'd love for you to continue to watch us. We should be here probably tomorrow. We look forward to seeing you. So we will let you go for now. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow on another good episode of the We Are Marshall podcast. If you have any questions or issues, you can reach me at steve@wearemarshallpodcast.com. And, of course, you can reach my co-host here, Bill McIntyre, at bill@wearemarshallpodcast.com. So, everyone, have a good evening, and we'll be back with you tomorrow. Thank you, Bill.
All right. Thank you.